About 2 years ago, I read an article that was explaining and describing, from their point of view, two types of lives. One life was the transactional life, which is a life of give and take. This is the way they portrayed it: a life of give and take, an unemotional life, a life that can be cold and callous, a life that is based on doing something to receive something. And then they had the other life, the generous life. And that life, as they depicted it, was warm and heartfelt, pure. And the way the writer was depicting it too, the transactional life was the life you did not need to live, and the generous life was the life you needed to live. And it was an interesting article. It had to be interesting. I'm mentioning the article 2 years later. And so I enjoyed it, but I disagree with the premise surrounding the article and how they depicted these two types of lives. And the reason I disagree is because I believe life itself is transactional. There's no way around it. And now you can have a generous life within a transactional life, just like you can have a greedy life, the opposite of generous, a greedy life or a selfish life within a transactional life. But life itself is transactional. What depicts or what determines if it's going to be a generous life or a selfish life is the intent, the motive behind what you do. But in life itself, there's always a give and take, always, as it should be. That's the law of the universe. That's nature. That's how it should work. That's how it always works. There's no way around it. For instance, even if you're giving something to someone and you say you don't want anything in return, and you really mean that, it's pure, your motives are pure, your intent is pure, you really mean you don't want anything in return, you actually are receiving something in return. You are. You feel good. You're getting a good feeling. You're receiving a good feeling about being able to receive, being able to give. In return, you receive this good feeling, this warm feeling that you can't replace with anything. You're receiving that. And so there's still a transaction going on, regardless. Although your motives are pure and your intent is pure, you are receiving something. And so this is why people say it's better to give than to receive, because not only when you give, you're planting seeds, and those seeds are going to sprout. Those seeds are going to render fruit. So that's one reason. But the other reason is the feeling you get. I personally feel better when I give than when I receive. And that's because my intent is pure in my giving. My motive is pure. So I have a good feeling. I receive a good feeling in that transaction. Although they may not, give me anything materialistic or tangible, but I receive something that's intangible. That's the feeling of giving. That feeling cannot be replaced. Like I said, it's all about the motive and the intent. But there is a transaction in everything we do. I was looking at a video. Actually, I want to just say a video. I was looking at the podcast, the Ghetto Boys Reloaded podcast with the rappers Scarface and Willie D. And they had the comedian Donnell Rollins on. Great interview. Donnell Rollins was telling a story about an incident or a situation where he ran into his friend, actor, rapper, Ludacris. And when he ran into Ludacris, I guess he hadn't seen him in a while, and he was like, "Hey man, you need to hook me up. One of these shows, one of these movies, you need to hook me up." And Ludacris's response was, "We're looking for people with ideas." And Donnell Rollins said, "Man, that woke him up. He said, that really woke me up, because he said, I quote, I was looking for a hookup because that's my friend. But he was looking for people with ideals. He was looking for somebody who could come to the table with something and where there's a transaction taking place. And that's so true. Ludacris was willing to give an opportunity if Donnell Rollins had an idea or ideas. There's a transaction. Now, it's perfectly fine too for Ludacris to say, hey, I'll hook you up, without even saying we're looking for people with ideas. Hey, that's his choice too. He could have said that too. But even in that situation, he would have been receiving something, whether his intent was bad or good behind it. He's receiving something. He's receiving, this warm feeling of giving. He feels good about himself. Or the other side of the game, he's giving and he has a motive that is not pure. Maybe he wants to hold something over Donnell's head. Maybe he wants to gain traction or position. Maybe he wants to look back and say, take credit of what he did for someone. Who knows? But in any situation, any scenario, whether it's pure or not pure, he's receiving something. There's a transaction going on. And we really got to understand that, man. We really got to understand that as people, that there's always a transaction going on in life. Within that life, you could be generous in your giving and receiving. Within that life, you could be selfish in that giving and receiving. You could be light, you could be dark, but there is a transaction going on. People ask me all the time. They ask me all the time, or they imply that they assume that I want to be on the New York Times best-selling list, with my book. And when they apply this, I don't say anything, because I know they don't know. And I know their intentions are pure. The motive is pure. They want the best for me. They want me to reach the highest level as they see it. But like I told you, there's always a transaction. So even before, I actually wrote the book, when I was planning everything in my head, I had thoughts of being on that list, the New York Times best-selling list. But then I did my research, and I said, well, what does it take to be on this list? I always want to know what it takes and the why. I asked what and why, where, when. I always ask those questions. So after doing my research, I found out it's a very political game. And that game is similar to the music business. For one, to be on that list, you have to be attached to a major publishing company. You can't be independent. You can't have your own publishing company like I do. You have to be attached to the major ones. That lets you know there's somebody in somebody's pocket, right? Secondly, your sales have to be between 10 to 15,000 the opening week. The week your book comes out, you have to have 10 to 15,000 sales that week. Now, the catch to that is the sales have to be diverse, meaning you can't just have sales from Barnes & Noble. You just can't have sales from Amazon. It has to be diverse from different avenues where the sales come from. Okay? Unless there's something politically charged going on there. Next, you have people that have to choose you. They have to choose you to be on that list. So now you have the human element. It goes away from mathematics, right? It goes away from science. You have the human element involved. And hey, man, there you go. But the problem with being on this list, you give up so much. That's the transaction. To be established or to be attached to a major publishing company, To be signed to them, you give up so much. They give you a signing bonus, an advance, a loan in return from ownership of your book, of your art, of your seed, of your manifestation. That's the transaction. You give up creative control. You give up managerial control. You have no say-so over your art, over your work, in exchange for money, in exchange for visibility. You know, they can walk into doors you probably don't even know exist. They can put you on front pages of publications and articles and you know, different avenues, different social media platforms. They can do that. They have the reach. But what do you give up? There's a transaction. What do you give up? In order to have notoriety, in order to have fame, in order to experience the fast hustle, what do you give up? So for me, I probably would never be on that list because I'm not willing to engage in that transaction. Now, I don't knock anyone who aspires to be on that list, who's willing to engage in that transaction. To each his own. I'm just not willing to. Yeah, I can't see myself giving up creative control and selling, you know, my art for someone to cut me a check. You know, I really do the slow hustle and, you know, have this within my legacy, within my bloodline, within my estate. Once I even die, that's what I'd rather do. That's me personally. But hey, there's levels and different phases people are in their own lives, so I don't knock it. But that's me. But this video is to let you know we all live a transactional life. We all give. We all receive in every aspect of life. The difference is it all depends on, like I said, your intent and your motive. That's what it's all about, man. Your intent and motive. But this is definitely a transactional life. And don't forget that. Don't fall for the okie doke. You always ask yourself, what's the catch? And or what am I going to have to give up? What am I going to have to give in order to receive this? And it's okay to ask someone why. Why are you giving this? Why do you want to receive this? Why are you giving this? Don't be naive. Don't be green. Yeah, don't get caught slipping. So stay aligned with your higher self. And everything you want, man, will be drawn to you in this life, in this transactional life. The right people will draw to you. And so I'm not saying being paranoid. Definitely don't be paranoid. Definitely don't walk in fear. That's not God-like. But understand the laws, the universal laws, and that's one of them. So that's all I got for you guys. Let me know what you think in the comments. As always, from me to you, love, peace.